Okay, so the previous video, we ended here. So we kind of start here. We don't have to describe it in great length. So the whole purpose of this video series is to kind of do a complete microeconomics course and also to outline the book from front to back. But in a way, we do film the entire textbook. So if we want to kind of read along, that's fine. It's just kind of go through each little example. It's not too important. I know that sometimes I'm just kind of reading. Okay, so there's ways, it's kind of math or just a diagram, but there's always kind of visual ways to present a concept, and we just kind of brush through them. The whole purpose of why the book, shows something kind of like this is one, to kind of diagram how the information can be illustrated. Kind of nice how I just always speak about it in a very general, ambiguous way, but whatever the concept may be, I mean, we can literally just read this paragraph. But they're doing two. They're kind of showing us a way that we diagram this information. But the second one is they're literally just kind of doing predecessors to the actual math that we do. They're kind of telling us that this is not important. Uh, but if we have something like, not bananas or apples, we are a little bit more precise, like a quantity, a mass, or a weight, a pound of bananas and a pound of apples. So a quantity or weight, they're kind of scaling our preference here. So they just scale it. Individual one would prefer, uh, this is the kind of the basic idea, as what do they call it? So I kind of read through, I understand, but I don't mind saying that with the basic definitions and things like that, I kind of forget as soon as we go through it, I forget, but the properties are not that important. But previous video, we literally did the properties. So what was the first one? Besides the name of property one, yeah. These are the things, they don't mean a whole lot to our grade. If we're taking an actual class, almost always they don't mean a lot to our grade. But this is kind of the theory that we skip, and it's not that important. But the diagram kind of represents the completeness. Completeness is just a term for ranking them, so it seems kind of little unusual. But besides all that, so individual one, we're just saying that they would prefer 1 pound of bananas, 1 pound of apples. What we're literally saying here with this second row is if they have only a pound of bananas, no apples, only a pound of apples, no bananas, we're literally saying that they prefer them equal. So this whole thing is nothing more than a ranking. And obviously having none would be the one that they prefer least. Is it possible for, these are the same, by the way. Yeah, individual one, individual two are exactly the same. Let's just say that we have 1 pound of bananas, 1 pound of apples. Is it possible to prefer bananas over apples? Absolutely. That's what that is saying. And this one would be the opposite, I suppose. But they're just showing us something simple like that. And they are simply telling us that later to show the concept more as a function is much more important to microeconomics in the book. Yeah, so table 4.1 is just a listing of preferences. This raw list is a cumbersome tool if we use optimization techniques from chapter 2. So chapter 2, like we said, is going to kind of govern chapter 3 and chapter 4. We're now in chapter 4. So they talk about how we're kind of leaning into this utility function that I had discussed in the previous video. So a utility function, U, it's going to be usually utility of money or something like that. U of quantity or U of income represents an individual's preference over the alternatives in set A, if for any two alternatives, X and Y. So they do this in all math books, yes. It is kind of more or less a math book, very easy. But okay, so the utilities are preference as a function of X. X can be income, money, or it can be quantity. Yeah. So if we prefer X over Y, then our utility of X is greater than our utility of Y. If we prefer X and Y equally, then the utility of X equals the utility of Y. It's not really ambiguous what utility is. I shouldn't make it out to be that ambiguous, but there's different ways to describe utility, and I think the best way, of course, is just to describe it as preference. Yeah. So the utility function is what it's all warming up to, and this whole chapter is basically about the utility function. So now we have an exercise. Let A be the quantity of apples in pounds and B be the quantity of bananas in pounds. Write a utility function that represents the preferences of individual one. Individual one came from that previous. And the only thing I take from individual one is the fact that they prefer apples and bananas equally. Um, so if we prefer apples and bananas equally, then this is going to be our utility function. So there is literally a mathematical way uh, as a function, A being the number, it doesn't matter if they do it. Yeah, A is apples, B is bananas, that should be obvious. But A is the quantity or pounds of apples, B is the quantity or pounds of bananas. And then that's going to be our utility function as both. And if, like we said, if we prefer them equal, there's literally an exact way to illustrate it mathematically, and there it is. So read through that, we don't have to do. That's going to be the thing, yeah. So we have 1 plus 1 is 2, our utility is 2. If we only have apples, our utility is 1, which is less. If we have 0, so we kind of see how going down the road there, our utility, our preference drops. Yeah. So they kind of describe this, but I think it is fairly obvious, yes. They kind of do these things here. Uh, we kind of lose the concept. When it comes to the easiest concept, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but if I understand it, I have kind of a little difficulty explaining it. I think we all do. Yeah. But is 3A plus 3B the same as A plus B? I don't know if we can say it is, but it basically is for the use of what they're doing. But 3A, 3B, these coefficients are the same. It does mean that they prefer apples and bananas equally. So exactly why do we scale it? That's a little bit harder to explain, I think. But really quick from this, we do 2A. If the coefficients are different, 2A plus B or A plus 2B, those are the functions such that we prefer apples over bananas or bananas over apples. Yeah. The apple banana, very simple to introduce it example, but it does go into real world concepts. I wouldn't say more advanced, but obviously much different than apples and bananas. But they do it with the apples and bananas. So here we go. Like I said, let A be the quantity of apples in pounds and B be the quantity of bananas in pounds. Write a utility function that represents the preference of individual 3. Okay. So 3 wants what? Individual 3 wants apples more than bananas, and individual 4 wants bananas over apples. So literally, if we prefer, make sure that we have it right. As we can see from the utility function, individuals 1 and 2 care equally about apples and bananas. Individual 3 like apples more than bananas, and individual 4 likes bananas more than apples. It's literally twice as much. So that's the easy thing that we see. If we like apples 2 times as more than bananas, then 2A plus B. If we like apples 3 times more than bananas, then 3A plus B. Yeah, if we like bananas 4 times than apples, then A plus 4B. So we have those incredibly simple concepts there. They're just illustrating that. So we have additional assumptions. Are they important? Okay, so we want to kind of read through this. I think we're going to get into this in the next video here.